Regent, Regent Hubbard is here. Can you hear me now?
I hear you now. Perfect. Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And then when Regent Brown connects, please ask him just to say hi for the record. Also joining us today are the university's executive officers. I'd like to begin by congratulating the 3 U of M researchers who've been selected as the inaugural recipients of our Biosciences Initiative Mid-Career Biosciences Faculty Achievement Recognition Award. MBioFAR is a new annual award that recognizes exceptional mid-career faculty in the biosciences and encourages innovative high-risk research. We designed MBioFAR to operate like an internal MacArthur Genius Award with nominations and a thorough review process. This year's awardees are Dana Nessel, a professor and NSF International Chair of Environmental Health Sciences and Professor of Nutritional Sciences. Professor Nessel is a toxicologist who studies gene-environment interactions in development and in disease, focusing on the role of nutrition and toxicants on the epigenome, or modifications to DNA that can lead to disease. Aubrey Gordon is an associate professor of epidemiology and a world leader in influenza epidemiology, focused on the dynamics of viral transmission in tropical countries. Professor Gordon's studies help provide the data needed to optimize the timing of vaccination in Nicaragua, and she's currently conducting studies on COVID-19 in children and across people's lifespans, and the transmission and immunity to SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19. Daniel Robowsky is an associate professor of ecology and evolutionary biology and associate curator at the Museum of Zoology. Professor Robowsky's highly influential work focuses on answering the question, what is responsible for the tremendous amount of biodiversity on Earth? To address that, he develops novel mathematical approaches to understand the rates at which species form and go extinct. The MBioFAR recipients are amongst those who are at the forefront of our university's leadership in the biosciences. I commend these incredible faculty members for their academic accomplishments, professional achievements, and exceptional ongoing promise for future discovery. Please join me in congratulating our inaugural Mid-Career Biosciences Faculty Achievement Recognition Award recipients. Following the recommendations of our Campus Health Response Committee and recent public health guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the state of Michigan, I'm pleased to announce that beginning Monday, fully vaccinated individuals who self-report their vaccine information to the university will no longer be required to wear a mask or socially distance indoors or outdoors for most areas of our campus. We'll continue to require face coverings for now, regardless of vaccination status, in classrooms, on campus transportation, and in healthcare areas where patients may be present. But as we're able to better assess vaccination rates in our community, we may modify our approach for our classrooms. To support our return to more traditional residential campus activities, we're adding a number of new tools for members of our community. Faculty and staff are asked to self-report their vaccination information via Wolverine Access using the same tool launched in April to collect student vaccination information. Ann Arbor campus students, faculty, and staff who get vaccinated and submit their vaccination information will be eligible for prize drawings scheduled to begin in the coming weeks. Employees at Michigan Medicine, Dearborn, and Flint should watch for future communications from their campuses. Prizes for students will range from gift cards to tickets to future athletic events. Faculty and staff drawings will also feature a variety of rewards, including cash prizes, parking passes, U of M athletics and performing arts tickets, and University Musical Society tickets. Students who've already submitted vaccination information will be entered into a separate prize drawing. Later this month, our Responsive Blue app will include a vaccination box reflecting users' self-reported status. The weekly testing requirement will be waived for fully vaccinated students, and the testing box will be removed from their Responsive Blue. Our work continues with guidepost solutions to enhance the sexual misconduct prevention, educational, outreach, and support resources for all members of our community. We're finalizing a series of changes, including new and updated policies and mitigation and support efforts, following engagement with our community and with faculty experts. We'll have more to share next month at our July board meeting. I thank the members of the Task Force on Advancing Public Safety at the University of Michigan. In addition to providing multiple opportunities for community members to share experiences, perspectives, and concerns, the task force made recommendations for reforms and identified a number of areas in which data should be made available. They also noted areas in which our Department of Public Safety was to be commended. The members' commitment to enhancing public safety for all constituents on our campus is evident in the recommendations, and we're moving forward on many of them. Additional details, along with the full report, are available on the Provost website and in the university record. I want to emphasize that work to advance public safety must be ongoing. This includes physical and emotional safety. The work is integral to our mission, to our desire to always improve, and to uphold our commitment to anti-racism. The June meeting is traditionally the time the regions vote on a new chair and vice chair of the board for the coming year. The election will take place later in the meeting, but I'd like to thank Board Chair Regent Illich and Vice Chair Regent Acker for their close collaboration with me and their dedicated service over the last several months. Leadership during a global pandemic is incredibly challenging, and I express my appreciation to Regents Illich and Acker, not only for their tireless efforts to ensure that U of M emerges from COVID-19 as a great institution, but also for their commitment to engaging with our many, many stakeholders. It's really been a pleasure working so closely with the two of you. The University of Michigan is once again ranked the top US public university in the QS World University Rankings. U of M maintained its top US public university ranking since 2016. The annual list ranks the 1,300 best institutions from all around the world and are based on academic reputation, employer reputation, student-faculty ratio, citations per faculty, proportion of international faculty, and proportion of international students. On our agenda this month are the annual budget presentations for the university. All of the deans, executive officers, and their teams have focused on strategic investments that enhance the mission of our great university. This year's budget will serve the people of our state and of the U of M community by driving our cherished values of academic excellence, affordability, societal impact, and support of our students and employees. Our budget includes key items that we've developed with the leadership of the Regents and with input from members of our community and generous private supporters and advocates for change. Our budget identifies and funds many of the priorities we share. Our budget invests in the academic and research programs that make us the top US public university, as I've just mentioned. Our budget increases the minimum wage for all permanent university employees to at least $15 an hour. Our budget increases support of students on all three of our campuses, and Chancellor Dutta and Grasso will share more details shortly for Flint and Dearborn. For Ann Arbor, because of our investment in need-based financial aid, more than a quarter of our in-state undergraduate students will pay no tuition, and about 65% will not see an increase in what they pay for tuition. And finally, our budget supports the families of our state and the academic excellence of our students by promising that outstanding students who work hard in their studies will be able to afford a Michigan education on all three of our campuses. The University of Michigan will provide resources to extend the Go Blue Guarantee to high-achieving in-state students on our Flint and Dearborn campuses. This will support the important goals of access, affordability, and graduation for the campuses and for the state we serve. The expanded Go Blue Guarantee for free tuition begins this fall. It will apply to all new, transfer, and returning students with the same income and asset thresholds on all three campuses, and it will not change the financial aid provided to any Ann Arbor student. Overall, the basic criteria for Dearborn and Flint are eligibility for in-state tuition, family incomes of $65,000 or less, and assets below $50,000. Developed in consultation with the campus chancellors, the guarantee will provide free in-state tuition, undergraduate tuition, for up to 4 years for eligible full-time students with incoming GPAs of 3.5 or higher, with current students needing a 3.0 GPA. Each campus will determine eligibility for the guarantee within those broader criteria, with more details to be made available in the weeks ahead. Flint and Dearborn already invest significant resources in need-based financial aid, which will continue. Ann Arbor will provide the extra resources necessary to launch the expanded Go Blue Guarantee. We commit to this funding for at least 6 years, and the guarantee will be a focus of our fundraising in the years ahead. Our donors and philanthropic partners are eager to support the guarantee. Already, the commitments include a $1 million grant by the Flint-based Charles Stewart Mott Foundation for U of M Flint students, and a lead gift from Kathy and Jim Hackett for U of M Dearborn students. Jim, of course, is a U of M alumnus and former president and CEO of the Ford Motor Company. I thank the many individuals in our community whose passion and commitment to affordability have helped us achieve this moment in the great history of the University of Michigan. I've said on many occasions that the states with the most college graduates are the most successful, economically and intellectually. U of M's Go Blue Guarantee will create greater opportunities for prosperity and academic excellence statewide for our communities, our families, and our businesses, and for our students who aspire to a University of Michigan education, work hard, aim high, and go blue. I know that a number of regents wanted to make comments at this moment. Regent Bernstein.
Thank you, Mark. 3 years ago, this board made a promise to the students of Michigan that if you show outstanding academic achievement in high school, you can attend our Ann Arbor campus, no matter your family's financial resources. Today, we take that promise one huge step further. And this budget overall, and of course the Go Blue Guarantee's inclusion in it, is a big win for all of our students on all 3 of our campuses, in U of M Ann Arbor, U of M Dearborn, and U of M Flint. The Go Blue Guarantee has been a big success here in Ann Arbor, and today we are expanding it to our students on our Flint and Dearborn campuses. Expanding the Go Blue Guarantee, Mark, as you indicated, is a significant increase in our investment in Flint and Dearborn. Most importantly, it's an investment that is focused on student retention and success on these campuses. Now, students from a majority of Michigan households have the opportunity to attend the University of Michigan Ann Arbor, the University of Michigan Flint, and the University of Michigan Dearborn for free. I want to thank President Schlissel, our chancellors, Chancellor Dutta and Chancellor Grasso, Provost Collins, Amy Dittmer, all of their colleagues, all of my colleagues for their support of this expansion. This was a long and complex process, but most of all, I want to thank our students and faculty on each of our campuses for their relentless and obviously impactful advocacy. This would not have happened without you.
Thank you, Regent Bernstein. I believe Regent Beam wanted to comment.
Thank you, Mark. I don't want to repeat everything that Regent Bernstein said, but I wholeheartedly agree with his statement. And then just quickly, the Flint and Dearborn campuses are incredibly important to the university as a whole. And the extension of the Go Blue Guarantee to these hardworking and intelligent students is very well deserved. Thanks to President Schlissel, Chancellors Grasso and Dutta for working tirelessly to make a U of M education a reality for so many young citizens of the state of Michigan.
Thank you, Regent Beam. Thank you for those comments. I now ask for a show of support by raised hands for extending the Go Blue Guarantee to high achieving in-state undergraduate students on our Flint and Dearborn campuses. Denise, you can't put up two hands. Oh, okay, I get your enthusiasm.
She's putting one up for me, President Schlissel.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
So
me too.
it's a
She
hand
can
for
put one
Regent
up for me.
Actor.
Does she have three?
Okay,
Yeah.
3 hands. Okay, very good. Well, thank you, and congratulations, Regents, on really, this is an institutional accomplishment. So thank you for your support. We'll now move on to our budget presentations, beginning with Ann Arbor. Our Ann Arbor budget continues to focus on academic excellence and affordability amidst challenging circumstances from the COVID-19 pandemic. I especially appreciate the work and leadership of Provost Collins, Senior Vice Provost for Academic and Budgetary Affairs, Amy Dittmar, and their staffs for developing this budget. I now turn the floor over to Provost Collins.
Great, thank you very much, President Schlissel. And it is now my pleasure to present the fiscal year 2022 general fund budget for the Ann Arbor campus. Next slide, please. After a year of uncertainty and changing circumstances due to the pandemic, we are simply delighted to be able to focus on a return to the residential experience for our students, and so proud to report that the demand for a University of Michigan education remains very strong. This year's budget recommendation reflects our long-standing priorities of both academic excellence and affordability, and it is designed to uphold the value of the Michigan education. Accomplishing this requires us to invest strategically so as to enhance the student experience, to provide need-based financial aid, and to preserve and advance the excellence of our academic programs. However, this budget is only possible because of our strong commitment to fiscal stewardship and cost containment. More specifically, it required the hard work and sacrifices of faculty and staff across our campus. Their efforts have guided the university through a very challenging year and leave us in a stable position as we look to the year ahead. I would like to give a special thank you to the budget team in the provost's office, who are such careful and tireless workers and have developed a budget that advances the university's mission in this period of economic uncertainty. Thank you. I would also like to extend my appreciation to each member of the Board of Regents. Thank you for your ongoing input and your counsel as we crafted this budget recommendation. Next slide, please. The budget materials contain a summary of the general fund budget for the Ann Arbor campus, as well as information about key revenue flows and their allocation. This budget focuses on supporting our people, the students, faculty, and staff who really are at the heart of the university's mission. So in my remarks today, I'll highlight just some of the ways that our people are supported through the priorities that are embedded in this budget. Next slide, please. Approval of this budget invests in our students, their academic success, their well-being, and their engagement. And while these are high priorities every year, they are especially important this year as we emerge from the pandemic. Faculty and staff across our campus have been hard at work developing new, innovative programming to welcome students back to campus, to increase opportunities for student engagement, and to enhance our wide array of offerings that support student success. So today I'll highlight just 2 examples of the investments that we are making to expand our services for students and to ensure their success. First, strengthening the second year experience is a new initiative that will reintroduce returning students to campus. Our students tell us that making friends and finding community is one of the most important and rewarding aspects of their first year on campus, but we know this was so much more challenging this past year. And so we're expanding our first year experience programming to include second year students. This program helps students transition to campus by engaging them in programs for personal and academic growth, navigating campus resources, and building meaningful connections with others. The second example is focused on wellness. Student mental health is a national concern that's been amplified by the effects of the pandemic and the impacts of systemic racism in our society. So this budget provides resources to integrate and expand services that promote student well-being. These additional resources will enable us to expand peer coaching, to enhance wellness coaching, and to increase our outreach to select groups. We are increasing the accessibility of care while improving its efficiency, and that includes the use of technology where appropriate. This is part of a comprehensive undertaking to holistically address the health and well-being of our students, undergraduate and graduate, and we're excited to be launching many of these enhancements beginning this fall. Next slide, please. Our budget also prioritizes our employees. The contributions of our faculty and staff make such a difference in the world through leading research, education, and public service that makes the University of Michigan a world-class institution. This budget includes contractual increases for bargained for employees and modest salary programs for faculty and staff. However, due to resource constraints, these salary programs are necessarily modest, and we do acknowledge that they do not make up for the year-long salary freeze that we implemented for our non-bargained for employees. We also recognize that hard economic times have the greatest impact on our lower paid employees. And so along with the merit-based salary programs, this budget also includes resources to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour for all permanent university employees, both part-time and full-time. We're very grateful for the tenacity and the commitment of our faculty and staff over the past year, and pleased to support them in these ways. Next slide, please. Approval of this budget also supports ongoing research, scholarship, and service that benefit our society. Public research universities are vital to the health of our state, our country, and the world. Using scholarship and research to illuminate and address societal challenges is an essential part of the university's mission. Our faculty in every field contribute to our mission, and I'd like to highlight just two examples of the ways that our faculty's research helps improve people's lives. The shorelines of the Great Lakes are vulnerable to increasingly severe storms that we are experiencing as a result of climate change. The homes and businesses along the lakes are vulnerable as well. So taking a multidisciplinary approach, faculty in urban planning and the environment are working with local officials, with residents in shoreline areas, and with community groups to help them make informed decisions. The new methods developed here analyze shoreline dynamics, fiscal impacts, environmental vulnerabilities, and land use impacts, and assess their interrelationships. And this work helps local planning officials make informed decisions about land use policy. In health and patient care, pioneering treatments and research that lead to improved outcomes are a critical part of the mission of our medical center. DIPG, diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma, is a childhood brain tumor that is fatal. It begins in the brain stem and so is nearly impossible to remove surgically. That disease is a research focus of the Rogel Cancer Center and the Chad Carr Pediatric Brain Tumor Center. Faculty at these centers have explored the use of metabolic drugs that can cross the blood-brain barrier and attack the tumor cells. This research on mice demonstrates that these drugs can interrupt the progress of the cancer cells, leading to longer survival. These early stage results are encouraging, and researchers hope for a DIPG treatment for children and are now working towards human clinical trials. This budget includes resources to continue to pursue groundbreaking research and innovative discovery such as these two examples. Next slide, please. Approval of this budget will advance our commitment to contain costs. In fact, cost containment is a critical part of the budget plan, enabling us to invest in academic excellence while also maintaining affordability. We expect to achieve ongoing savings totaling $29 million. So So I'd like to speak briefly about some of the efforts we are undertaking to accomplish this. First, our experiences over the past year have helped us identify a number of opportunities for ongoing savings. For example, we've learned that virtual events and meetings can increase accessibility and participation. They also reduce the need for travel, supporting our carbon neutrality goals, and can increase productivity. We expect that some events and meetings will remain virtual going forward and that our travel costs will be reduced. In addition, some lower priority activities will be eliminated, while new high priority needs and initiatives will be funded with alternative revenue sources such as gifts wherever possible. We also continue to pursue new and innovative programming to optimize the use of our campus during the summer. This enables us to expand programs and provide additional opportunities for our students. These are just a few examples of the work that is going on across campus to increase efficiency and ensure that our resources are strategically deployed. We are working hard to keep costs down while also investing to protect and enhance the quality of the education and experience we deliver to our students. Our sticker price rates would be significantly higher without these cost containment actions. Next slide, please. Approval of this budget enables us to recommend no increase in the net price of tuition for the majority of in-state undergraduates. Many students pay less than the published price of tuition as a result of our university's generous financial aid packages. For example, about 65% of in-state undergraduate students receive grant and scholarship aid. These students pay less than the sticker price, and most of these students and their families will see no increase in the net price of tuition. In this context, I'd like to highlight the Go Blue Guarantee, which offers free tuition for in-state families earning $65,000 or less. The University of Michigan also offers a number of other full tuition scholarships for in-state students such as Hale, Wolverine Pathways, Detroit Promise, and Fairfax. And as a result of these programs, about 27% of in-state students pay no tuition. This budget includes a 6.4% increase in the undergraduate financial aid budget to ensure that we can cover our commitment to all who qualify for the Go Blue Guarantee and for other need-based grant and scholarship aid. This budget proposal supports the university's long-standing commitment to making a Michigan education accessible regardless of financial means. And I am so pleased that the Go Blue Guarantee will now be available to incoming students in Flint and Dearborn.
Thank you, Provost Collins. Just as our annual budgets have done for more than a decade, this year's budget enables a 0% increase in the net price of tuition for the majority of our undergraduate students from Michigan. Not only will most in-state undergrads see no change in their net tuition costs, we estimate that more than a quarter, as the provost said, will pay no tuition at all. And when students arrive, they'll be able to enjoy a full campus experience this year with excellent academic programs, teaching the vast majority of their classes in person. I understand that Regent Ilitch wanted to make a comment. Whoop, you're still on mute, Regent Ilitch.
Thank you, President Schlissel. I wholeheartedly want to support a 0% increase for the majority of our in-state students and no tuition for more than a quarter of them. Last year has been very, very difficult for our students, and we have heard you and we have heard your parents. This budget recognizes that with more funding to support mental health, including wellness coaching and greater access to counseling services, we have heard you on that. This is a responsible budget with strong cost containment measures in place. I thank Provost Collins and her team for all of the work, really listening to the stakeholders and addressing all of the important issues. It's fantastic. I'd like to just name one example of when Provost Collins was talking about cost containment. Our LSNA, which is our larger school, expects to save 1.8 million by shifting faculty salaries to endowed professorships. And that really speaks to the strength and the generosity of Michigan supporters and our longstanding teamwork to drive academic excellence and affordability. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Regent Illich. And thank you for those comments. I now ask for a show of support by raised hands for more than a quarter of our in-state students paying zero in tuition and the majority of undergraduates from Michigan seeing a zero increase in the net price of tuition. Can I get a show of hands from the regents in support? Okay.
I'm raising my hand.
Including Regent Hubbard raised her telephone, and the vote is
Yeah.
7-0 in support. Thank you very much, and I'll turn things back over to Provost Collins.
Thank you, and thank you very much for those comments. I will continue now with a few additional points, and so the next slide, please. See if we could go back to the presentation, please, and with slide 9. Great, thank you very much. So approval of this budget enables us to keep the tuition rate increases below inflation for those students who do pay the sticker price for tuition and fees. This budget includes an increase of $230 per year, or 1.4% for in-state undergraduates, and an increase of 1.8% for most other rates. And there are a few differential increases recommended for specific graduate programs that are listed in your materials. I'll note that state funding for fiscal year 22 remains uncertain. The State House has proposed a bill that would result in a reduction of nearly $40 million for the Ann Arbor campus. However, the budget we present today aligns with the recommendations of the State Senate and the governor, which include no change in our ongoing appropriations, coupled with an additional $6.6 million in one-time funds. We are committed to a budget that provides for increased financial aid to support families with financial need, for an expansion of programming for students' academic success, well-being, and engagement, and for modest salary programs following a year-long salary freeze. Although less than inflation, the small proposed increase in tuition and required fees, coupled with our cost containment actions, will make it possible for us to achieve these goals.
Raising tuition rates slightly, less than the rate of inflation for those who can afford it, allows us to continue the University of Michigan trend of increasing aid for the students who need it the most. For our more affluent in-state students who will pay the tuition increase, it equates to less than $20 more per month. This increase will affect a little more than a third of our in-state undergraduate students. Let me turn it back to Provost Collins.
Thank you. The final slide, please. So this budget reflects the collective commitment of faculty, staff, and leadership across the university at all levels. It protects the value of a Michigan degree through a combined commitment to academic excellence, affordability, cost containment, and fiscal stewardship. Again, I would like to thank our faculty, staff, and board members for your steadfast commitment to uphold the excellence of this world-class institution. We must continue to work together to ensure that our resources are carefully and strategically deployed as we carry out our mission. And we are truly looking forward to welcoming our students back to campus this fall. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Provost Collins. I now call upon Vice President Harman to present the Ann Arbor housing and fee budgets.
Thank you, President Schlissel. I want to thank you for the opportunity to share our proposed room and board rate increase for FY22. Student Life is for housing. Student Life is requesting a 3% increase to address the contractual wage obligations and other mandatory cost increases, and to invest in the deferred maintenance of our facilities. In summary, our commitment to provide affordable housing to our students and provide them with a robust co-curricular learning experience in a safe and healthy environment is critically important. Next, I will discuss the fee assessments for Central Student Government, Student Legal Services, and the school and college student governments. In all three scenarios, I'm presenting no increase over the previous year. For Central Student Government, we are proposing the renewal of a $9.19 per student per term fee. Central Student Government believes that the current structure will provide adequate funding for the coming fiscal year. For Student Legal Services, we are proposing the renewal of the $8.50 per student per term fee, which again is no change from the previous year. And Student Life believes that Student Legal Services will have sufficient resources for FY22 under the current structure. And third, the $1.50 per student per term fee for the school and college student governments does not represent a change over the previous year. We believe that the school and college government organizations have adequate funding for FY22. So therefore, in all three of those scenarios, we're not presenting any increases. And finally, for University Health Services, Student Life is requesting a fee increase of 1.4% to the University Health Service fee for FY22. The proposed increase will allow UHS to enhance support in psychiatric care and musculoskeletal care and sports medicine. UHS will meet all of its cost increases through aggressive cost containment measures. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Vice President Harman. Are there any questions or comments on the Ann Arbor budgets? Thank you. I next call upon Chancellor Dutta for the Flint budget.
Thank you, President Fischel. The philosophy undergirding the U of M Flint budget is a deliberate focus on affordability through cost control and cost reduction. It reinforces our steadfast commitment to being a best higher education value in the region, offering exceptional quality at the lowest possible cost to benefit our students, their families, and the community. The proposed FY22 general fund budget for U of M Flint has a flat tuition and fees for undergraduate students and a 3% increase for graduate tuition. It assumes no change in undergraduate enrollment and a 13 to 14% increase in graduate enrollment. The financial aid, institutional aid now has been increased significantly through the Blue for You program on recruitment, retention, and graduation, and now through the Go Blue guarantee. The proposed budget includes our state appropriation of approximately about $24.4 million. The room rate increase that we are proposing on average is 2.76, and there is no increase in meal plan rates. I want to close by saying that at Flint, on a daily basis, the leadership, vice chancellors, deans, directors are focused on increasing operational efficiency, reducing administrative costs, and repurposing those funds towards academics. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Dutta. Any questions or comments on the Flint budget from the regents? Thank you very much. Next, we'll hear from Chancellor Grasso on the Dearborn campus budget. Chancellor?
Thank you, President Schlissel. We present a $155 million balanced general fund budget. This budget reflects a 2% one-time increase in the state appropriation over 2020-2021. Approximately 88% of our general fund, of our state appropriation goes directly to students in the form of financial aid. This coupled with last year's investment from President Schlissel towards student success is emblematic of the primacy of student success and student experience on our campus. We're delighted that we can augment our financial aid commitment through the Go Blue Guarantee funds that were just announced by the president earlier today. The proposed undergraduate tuition increase will only be 1.9%. Most students and families will see little or no increase to their tuition bill. In fact, families with adjusted gross incomes of $100,000 or less will see no increase to their tuition bill. The budget also makes permanent a 5% temporary cost-cutting measure that was put in place last year during COVID, and that's now going to become permanent. And the budget also accounts for a modest merit pool for the diligent and hardworking faculty and staff that are on our campus. Thank you, President Schlissel.
Thank you, Chancellor. Any questions or comments on the Dearborn budget? Thank you very much. University of Michigan Health System President, Dr. David Miller, will present the budget recommendation for the health system. David? You might still be on mute, David.
Thank you, President Schlissel. Good afternoon. Could I have the next slide, please? I'd like to start by acknowledging that this has been an unprecedented year for all of us. The COVID-19 pandemic arrived in the state of Michigan in March of 2020. Several months later, toward the end of the first surge of the pandemic, our country faced social unrest sparked by the killing of George Floyd and other Black Americans, as well as other acts of racism and discrimination. Several pandemic surges then strained our system and teams again in the fall of 2020, as well as the spring of 2021. Our vaccine program rollout in January 2021 has been a source of great optimism, but has also come with supply and other challenges. Could I have the next slide, please? Despite these challenges, we've made forward progress. Our approach to addressing the challenges of 2020 reflects our relentless focus on our core values and our mission of advancing health to serve Michigan and the world. Throughout the pandemic, we've preserved access for patients with COVID as well as patients with other conditions while developing a comprehensive vaccination program. We've also ensured patient quality, safety, and an outstanding experience. We've continued to invest in our teams and our culture, including a comprehensive action plan through our Anti-Racism Oversight Committee, as well as other efforts to increase the inclusiveness and equity of our culture. Could I have the next slide, please? Throughout the pandemic, we've maintained a commitment to balancing access to care for patients with COVID and patients with other conditions. In this slide, the figure on the left highlights our inpatient census for patients with COVID, shown with a blue curve. The yellow curve reflects our overall inpatient census. The main message is that after the first resurgence, which is shown in March and April of 2020, we've been able to maintain our hospital census at nearly pre-pandemic levels, confirming our ability to preserve access for all of our patients and communities. We've also learned from the pandemic, and the figure on the right side reflects the same curve for our inpatient COVID census, but the yellow line reflects the adoption of virtual visits in our ambulatory care sites. What you can see is a dramatic and sustained adoption of video visits from nearly only hundreds of ambulatory care video visits in January and February of 2020 to nearly 45,000 in April of 2021. Both of these accomplishments are a testament to our commitment to our core values of caring, teamwork, and innovation. Could I have the next slide, please? We've also ensured quality, safety, and experience reflected in recognition from many different organizations, including our receipt yet again of an A grade from the Leapfrog Group for Hospital Safety, a grade that we've obtained at Michigan Medicine every year since the inception of this award in 2012. Could I have the next slide, please? We also maintain our commitment to investing in our teams and taking care of those who take care of our patients and families. The pandemic required an economic recovery plan at the University of Michigan Health System. But even so, we were pleased when in January of this year, we were able to reinstate our retirement match 6 months earlier than anticipated. We're also extremely grateful that last month we were able to announce an appreciation bonus of $1,500 to recognize the extraordinary courage, contribution, and commitment of all members of the Michigan Medicine team. Could I have the next slide, please? So now we are ready to move forward. And I'd like to share a few details of our operating plan for fiscal year 22. This plan reflects our belief that patient care activity will continue to return and increase in the months ahead. And this will occur both within our academic medical center, as well as in the partnerships that comprise our statewide network. We recognize that we have capacity constraints and that achievement of the goals outlined in our plan will require continued innovation, teamwork, and operational efficiencies. But there's no question that the events of the last 16 months have prepared us for these challenges. And in fact, we will seek to accomplish the goals in our plan through a relentless focus on foundational principles of belonging and inclusion across our organization, easier access to care, a relentless focus on safety and quality, and outstanding experiences for both our employees and our patients. At the same time, we have to continue to identify options for strategic growth and to strengthen our partnerships. Even today, we've learned about changes in the landscape of healthcare delivery across the state of Michigan. And our efforts to achieve our aspirations as an academic medical center will require that we continue to strengthen our partnerships both locally and statewide on behalf of our patients and our communities. Could I have the next slide, please? Our financial plan for fiscal year 22 reflects an anticipated operating margin of 4.3%, leading to a cash flow margin of 7.9%, with a projection of $436 million in cash generation. Could I have the next slide, please? We recognize that there are risks and challenges associated with this plan. There may be additional resurgences of the pandemic that impact our forecasted volumes and the population of patients we care for in the hospital. There are also risks related to revenue of changes in payer rates, site of care, and auto reform. But we're confident that our teams are up to these challenges. And even this week, we've seen a surge of newborn deliveries in our children and women's hospital to a level that is almost unprecedented. But just yesterday, as I walked through the halls of the hospital, I saw our teams responding yet again, making adjustments in our facilities, in our staffing, in our care models to meet the needs of our patients and our communities. Have the next slide, please. We're prepared to move forward together. With organizational focus and discipline, we've been able to exceed our financial targets for fiscal year 21. We now present an optimistic but realistic plan for all of University of Michigan Health that will allow us to continue our focus and progress with our tripartite mission. By prioritizing our key foundational principles and also strengthening our partnerships, we'll emerge from the challenging circumstances of the last 16 months, and we can achieve continued financial success that enables investment in our teams and in our programs and realization of our mission to advance health to serve Michigan and the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. I believe that Regent Brown wished to make a comment.
Paul, you're still on mute.
I'll learn that someday. I just wanted to take a quick second to thank Dr. Miller for his presentation and the work that he's done since I took over the Health Affairs Committee and he joined in his new position as president of the health system. But in particular, I want to thank all of the employees. It's been weekly calls with employees from all areas of the hospital, understanding the stress that they're on and the just saintly work that they're doing. I know Dr. Miller recognizes it, and I just want to, in this setting, tell you how much I appreciate all of those employees, and I'm humbled by their work. And then lastly, the work that Dr. Miller does for the hospital is incredibly important, but maybe just as important, I want to congratulate him and his contribution of his daughter to the University of Michigan tennis team as a true freshman. She was our #1 player and led us to the Sweet 16. So congratulations.
Go Blue.
Thank you, Regent Brown. I appreciate all of those comments. And I also want to acknowledge the extraordinary courage and resilience of our teams at Michigan Medicine. It's hard to fully describe the commitment that our teams have brought forward over the last 16 months. And I appreciate your comments very much. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to work with all of our team members. Thank you again.
Thank you. We'll move on. AD Ward Manuel will present the budget for the athletic department. Ward.
Thank you, President Schlissel. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with everyone. Next slide, please. As you can see, I'm going to share some photos. National champions, women's gymnastics, runner-ups in the NCAA, our field hockey program, who won the Big Ten, our Big Ten champs in men's swimming. Maggie McNeil, who won 2 NCAA individual championships. Next slide, please. As Dr. Miller said, it has been an unprecedented year. We were thinking the same, but unprecedented, and I'm going to focus on the positive because we've all been through a tremendous amount of challenges this year, which led to a lot of growth. But these young people who I highlighted before and here on these photos with women's rowing, women's tennis, that was just highlighted, and Dr. Miller's daughter is awesome. You can see the water polo team won a conference championship. And then we highlight how Michigan Stadium was used this year. And I think it is great that both Michigan Medicine and Michigan Athletics are back-to-back in these presentations, because we came together utilizing the 3rd and the 4th floor of our stadium club to vaccinate so many. I don't have the number in front of me, but it was literally in the tens of thousands that we were able to help support Michigan Medicine in vaccinating. And then I'll highlight our alums in those pictures. Dr. Janae Caldoon, who has done a tremendous job leading the state through this pandemic, a former track athlete here at the university. And then you see Jawan Howard, who came back a couple of years ago and led our basketball team, men's basketball team, to the Big Ten championship. And we're just very proud. I'll also highlight a couple of alums that are not on this list. We have Tom Brady winning his 6th Super Bowl, and what a tremendous accomplishment that was. Steve Hutchinson and Charles Woodson are going into the NFL Hall of Fame, as well as Chris Webber this year will go into the NBA, to the Basketball Hall of Fame. And so very proud of all of those significant accomplishments. Next slide, please. This is the big one for me, and I think the big one that we should all applaud what our student athletes are doing in this year. Both of these academic highlights are record-setting, and just so proud of what our student athletes have achieved in this unprecedented, challenging time. They've stepped up not only on the fields of play, as we highlighted, but in the classroom, and so just extremely proud. That graduating class were the leaders this year, took everybody, all the student athletes, and led their teams through these unprecedented times and through a pandemic, and can't be more proud of this graduating class. Next slide, please. I touched on most of these athletic highlights already, but first, women's gymnastics national champion, Bev Plotke, in that team really fought hard. Record scoring in terms of points scored by them. I think it was the 3rd highest ever in the history of the NCAA competition. And you can see the list of champions, 10 champions in the conference, as water polo is in a different conference, not the Big Ten. And then you can see there down at the bottom, even both of our dance and our cheer teams won national titles in a virtual competition that they participated in. Next slide, please. You'll see some additional highlights in terms of the finishes. I'll point to bullet point number 2. We're currently second place overall in the Learfield IMG College Directors Cup standings. And that is just a testament to the overall success that we've had. While we've had some challenges with some sports, overall, the success in the classroom and the success overall of our student athletes has been something that we can all be very proud of. Next slide, please. I want to thank and highlight my CFO, Andrew Creeves, and Rob Rodemaker, who is my Executive Associate AD for Internal Operations, for all of their work on the budget. But it really takes a village. My leadership team, the head coaches, our assistant coaches, and all of our staff have really pulled together to find a way to get through this year with as minimal impact in terms of a deficit as we can, and you'll see that in a second. Lastly, I want to thank our student athletes, especially our student athletes who endured, for health and safety reasons, and some financial, but mainly because of health and safety reasons and flights and those kind of things, endured long bus rides, long times on the road, longer than normal, to play a series of games as opposed to playing one game and returning home as we were accustomed to in some sports. You know, really going into a bubble when you look at what happened with some of the tournaments, both conference tournaments and postseason. They deserve so much credit for their tremendous effort, not to mention enduring all the testing and everything that we had. And I will give a lot of credit to Daryl Conway, who is an Executive Associate AD for Student Health and Welfare, and his staff, the trainers, for their efforts to keep all of our student athletes safe and healthy while they participate in the competition. Next slide, please. You will see from our projections last year, we thought we would have about 50%. Boy, was I wrong, attendance when we presented the budget last year in June. It turned out to be 0. And so that deficit that was projected to be 26, we had actually said we thought it would be somewhere around 80 million. And again, through the hard work of everyone, we are presenting a 62.9%, $62.9 million deficit this year. And we have a plan with the CFO's office, with Kevin Haggerty and now Brian Smith, to work through a payment plan from athletics back to the university to cover that loan for that debt. Next slide, please. So for this year, we're projecting a budget operating surplus of 1.4 million. Spectator admissions, hopefully, knock on wood, will continue to be allowed at 100% throughout the year, and we can get back to normal attendance. While we are not sure, we've heard back from some fans that they're still not comfortable in looking at basketball, baseball games that are occurring nationally now. I think fans are ever more, because of vaccinations, getting more comfortable returning to these venues for competition. And then you see the conference distribution from television should return to normal. And then team and game expenses will return to normal, playing non-conference competitions and traveling, as well as the salaries and wages that were reduced or expected and will return back to those levels that we saw pre-pandemic. Next slide. I think that's the end. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Ward. Any questions or comments on our athletics budget? Thank you. I now call upon Interim Executive Vice President Brian Smith, who will conclude with the overall revenue and expenditure operating budgets. EVP Smith.
Mr. President, I'm pleased to provide to the board the consolidated summary of the operating budget revenues and expenditures for fiscal year 2022. The consolidation reflects all operating units of the Ann Arbor, Dearborn, and Flint campuses. This includes, but is not limited to, all academic, health, student life, and athletic units. This presentation is summarized by funding source. When a budget is approved, the line item details of the budget will be published and made available to the public.
Thank you very much. I think what I'd like to do is call for a motion in a second, and then we'll have discussants. Can I get a motion to move the budget of the university?
So moved.
Support.
Thank you. I hear a motion in a second. There are a number of regents who wish to discuss. I turn first to Regent Acker.
Thank you, President Schlissel. Good afternoon. I will keep my remarks today fairly brief, but would like to touch on a couple topics related to our budget. But first, if you'll indulge me for 30 seconds, I want to tell you briefly about something important going on in my hometown of Huntington Woods. 3 Mondays ago, I was awoken by a phone call from my cousin telling me that his friend and my high school classmate had been seized from his flight home from Myanmar and thrown into a notorious prison. A journalist, Danny Fenster, has spent the last 3 weeks in that jail, far away from his family, from Michigan, and from those whom he loves. Just hours ago, we learned that he was sent before a secret court and charged with a crime that has been used to intimidate and jail journalists in Myanmar. One of the most crucial freedoms in the United States, and the one we guard vociferously at this university, is freedom of the press. Danny is a journalist reporting on everything from the fate of minority groups abroad to a bar run by a man who learned how to speak English from listening to Eminem albums. I'm heartened by the way my community has come out to support each other, but those of us with a platform must continue to speak out, and the U.S. government must do whatever we can to bring Danny home. If you pray, or if you do not, please keep Danny Fenster in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you. There are a number of items in this budget I'd like to highlight, as I've been incredibly proud to work with this administration as vice chair over the last several months on it, and I look forward to voting for it. The first is the announcement of the Go Blue Guarantee at Flint and Dearborn. This is a major step forward for our campuses, and I want to congratulate the chancellors and President Schlissel for their excellent work in moving this forward. When we talk about the path forward to sustained success at our regional campuses, we're on it. I look forward to approving other additional long-term sustainable projects at Flint and Dearborn that we can and must fund in order to keep up the demands of higher education at our regional campuses. Make no mistake though, this is a game changer. I look forward to seeing the continuation of the Labor Center at U of M Dearborn, which has continued to educate thousands in the labor movement. I'm glad we can fund a commitment to continue its mission. The second thing that I would like to discuss is how happy I am that we are able to keep tuition stable for those receiving financial aid, while having a modest increase for those whose families can afford to pay. Coming out of the worst years in our university's history, if not the worst year, I'm glad that we could continue with smart financial management while keeping U of M affordable for Michiganders. Fourth and finally, it would be remiss of me at the end of this long year serving as vice chair to thank our outgoing chair, Regent Denise Illich. Regent Illich has been a rock of the university this year, and when called to go above and beyond, as she has many times by President Schlissel this year, she has answered the call. I've seen up close what it's like, and I can say that you've handled this position with coolness under pressure, with wisdom, with grace, with humor, and yes, a little wine. We are much, much better for your doggedness and perseverance. Thank you so much, and I look forward to voting yes on this budget.
Thank you, Regent Acker. Regent Brown wished to comment.
Yes, I won't be as eloquent as my fellow Regent Acker, but I wanted to thank everyone for their work on this budget, including the president, the staff, the regents, especially Regent Beam as chair of the Flint and Dearborn committee. But I also like to thank the students, the faculty, the staff, and community that continues to educate and advocate for the important budget priorities. No budget contains everything that I or any individual or group would like, but I'm particularly encouraged by some of the investments we have made in our employees and in Flint and Dearborn. In particular, since I joined the board a few years ago, we've increased compensation for all employees, including the just announced $15 an hour minimum wage on all campuses, while increasing student aid. We created the committee on Flint and Dearborn, and particularly through the works of that committee, we have now extended the Go Blue guarantee to Flint and Dearborn. A few others that are particularly important, I think, mostly funded out of the $20 million commitment from last year, 11 of which went to Flint to help create the College of Innovation and Technology with a $10 million grant from the CS Mott Foundation. Thank you. Expanded the Muncie Science Building, created 6 new endowed chairs, created the Urban Institute for Racial, Economic, and Environmental Justice, the first ever institute at U of M Flint. Completion of the program for adult non-completer populations. We've hired 10 new advisors, student advisor. It has the highest student advisor ratio in the country now at Flint. We created the student health and legal services on the Flint campus, and this year holding tuition in Flint at a 0% increase. And of course at Dearborn, besides of course the Go Blue guarantee and the $15 minimum an hour wage, $9 million has been invested in Dearborn from last year's commitment, increasing in particularly important emergency funding to support students who any COVID-19 financial crisis. Funded the Dearborn Comeback Program, as Jordan mentioned, funding the Labor Center, and again, in particular, enhanced student peer mentoring program. These investments represent great progress, and everyone involved should be very proud. But I want to say these investments over the last couple of years are an example of an ongoing focus and commitment, particularly to the success of Flint and Dearborn, and we must sustain that focus and investment. So again, I am proud to vote for this budget. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Regent Brown. Next is Regent Ilitch, I believe, wishes to speak. Regent Ilitch.
Thank you. Thank you, Regent Acker, for your kind words. I'm not going to repeat all of the positives of this budget, just want to highlight a couple things. I do want to thank the budget team, the president, the provost, for really working at helping others in a way that I haven't seen before with respect to the budget, and my colleagues have really highlighted some of those. I also want to thank those who care and advocate strongly every day for their desires in a budget. Whenever there's a budget, there's always give and take. Some are happy, some aren't. But we have really listened to you, and we have strategized, and I want to thank you for helping us solve the problems. We will continue to remain committed to Flint and Dearborn, and we will be laser focused on that. And then I want to say that we're really looking forward to getting back to a new normal. So I just want to thank, and it always happens kind of during the budget process, but thank our stakeholders, our students, our parents, our employees, our staff. It has been an unprecedented year, as it's been indicated. I would advocate that we haven't had a year like this in our 200-year history. And everyone has really risen to the occasion and shown great leadership. People say that a real test of a leader is during adversity. And I think that the president, his team, our board have just done an outstanding job, as well as our students and parents that have had to live through it day to day, as well as our faculty. So I am in full support of this budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Regent Ilitch. Regent Hubbard wishes to speak.
Thank you, President Schlissel. I really am looking forward to voting for this budget as the first one in my time on the Board of Regents. I appreciate the collaborative process that everybody has gone through to get this thing done on time and without having any last minute needs for special meetings. This is great. I really think this budget moves the university in the right direction with prioritization of support for students and families that live in Michigan, funded in part with a modest increase in tuition. The increase we're experiencing this year is certainly one that is keeping our costs in line and providing some restraint in our spending. So I appreciate the effort to find those cost savings throughout the budget and expect our focus to continue to balance revenue needs with opportunities to build in spending efficiencies. The Go Blue Guarantee is amazing, and I hope we provide leadership to other public universities across the campus or across the nation, really, with our efforts there to extend that to Flint and Dearborn today and really to have it at all. So I look forward to having that final vote on this budget and working with you all going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Hubbard. Regent Acker wishes a second bite at the apple.
I apologize. I had one more thank you that I wanted to extend for this budget, and that's to President Schlissel. You know, one of the things about this year is that we've had tremendous challenges, but we've also been stepping up to meet tremendous challenges. We did that last month when it came to the climate challenge on our campus. We're the ones that we're talking about in July, announcing with guideposts. These are the marks of true, serious leadership. We've had rocky moments this year. I think everyone knows that. But make no mistake, these challenges we're facing are important. They're crucial to solve. And with your leadership, President Schlissel, our university is stepping up to the plate to meet them. I appreciate not just your dedication to getting things right, but also how hard you work to do it. I can't tell you, and for those of you who are on this call know exactly what I'm talking about. I email President Schlissel at 11 o'clock, and it's somehow at 11:20 p.m. there's an email response. Nobody works harder for this institution, and you deserve a congratulations for these things that we've been able to put through. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Regent Acker. Thank you. Any further or final comments? I'd now like to call for a vote on this budget. Can all those in favor please raise your hands and say aye?
Aye.
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 Very good. Any opposed? Thank you. The budget carries by a 7-0 vote.
Hey, Mark, this is,
I'm sorry.
this
Hey,
is
Ward.
Ward. Speaking of 7-0, I have a point of clarification because I would hate Mr. Brady to be mad. He has won 7 Super Bowls and 5 MVPs. And so I averaged those 2 and came up with 6, but it's actually 7. So I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Is he watching? Did he just text you that clarification?
You know what? No, but several people have.
Well, let me make one additional clarification actually as we move on. We noted a 3.5 GPA as one of the requirements for entering students for the Go Blue Guarantee in Flint and Dearborn. It is quite the same in Ann Arbor. The average GPA of the Go Blue Guarantee students in Ann Arbor is over 3.8, and they all have 3.5 or above. So the academic standards are actually quite the same. I wanted to make sure we avoided any misunderstanding. So we move on now to committee reports. The Finance and Audit and Investment Committee reported out by Regent Bernstein.
Thank you, Mark. The FAI committee met to review the internal audit plan of fiscal year 2022. Very exciting.
Thank you. The Health Affairs Committee, Regent Brown. You're speechless, Regent Brown.
Well, that's the only way I could say less than Regent Bernstein, so I'll try. The Health Affairs Committee met. I was joined by fellow Regents Acker and Hubbard and several members of Michigan Medicine, including Dr. Runge and Dr. Miller. The committee reviewed the budget and performance of Michigan Medicine, including the effects of COVID on the budget and particularly that effect on the staff. And again, take this opportunity to thank the staff and everyone at Michigan Medicine and their work during this hard, difficult time.
Thank you. And Regent Brown, since you did such a good job on health affairs, the Personnel Compensation and Governance Report.
Yeah, what a prize. Again, the PPG committee met. I was joined by Provost Collins and the great dean of the Rackham Graduate School, Dean Michael Solomon, who gave a great report and history of the Rackham Graduate School. The most noteworthy information at the committee meeting was the ongoing and fairly typical process in search of filling 4 dean positions on our campus. Thank you, Provost Collins. And again, on the academic side, thank you to all of the faculty and staff for your work during this very difficult year to 18 months.
Thank you very much, Regent Brown. Next, I'm going to call on Regent Ilitch to discuss the leadership of the board starting in July. Regent Ilitch.
Thank you, President Schlissel. Before I do so, I do want to acknowledge my vice chair. In my family, he would have been called a wingman. And since we have talked so much about the extremely challenging year, Regent Acker has really risen to the occasion. I just want to say a couple things. His work ethic is second to none. He worked very hard this past year and met and listened to multiple stakeholders. He is completely committed to our university and has a very strong work ethic. I appreciate his passion on creating a safe environment against sexual misconduct. I think that his intent and goal is always to do the right thing. It's been a pleasure to have worked with him. I'm privileged to have served with you, Jordan. And in the mix, we actually had a little bit of fun. Not much, but real tiny. But I really, really appreciate you. And I applaud those that voted for you on our board. You've been a great addition, and thank you for all your work this past year. So with that being said, the Regents bylaws state that the positions of chair and vice chair rotate annually based on seniority until all members of the board have had an opportunity to serve as chair or vice chair. Following this provision, I move the nomination of Regent Jordan Acker as chair and Regent Paul Brown as vice chair of the Board of Regents, effective July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. Thank you.
Is there you made the motion, excuse me. Is there a second?
Yeah. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Very good. So congratulations, Jordan and Paul. And Regent Brown wish to make a comment.
Yeah, just quickly, I also, like Regent Acker, wanted to thank Regent Ilitch for her work as chair. She's truly the conscience of the board and makes us all better through her leadership. Now I'm going to be Jordan's wingman. I'm a wing nut, so hopefully that's the next closest thing I'm prepared for it. And I probably won't be as fun as Denise was, Jordan, but we'll try to have some fun and do a lot of good. Thanks, Denise.
Thank you, Regent Brown. Regent Bernstein wishes to make a comment.
Yeah, there's always a person in these meetings smiling the most, and it's always the person who is finishing their term as chair. And so Denise continues that tradition, but I just want to add my voice to share my gratitude for you and appreciation for the work that you do and the way you do it and the impact you've made on this university and by extension and not a distant extension on society. And so thank you for your work, Jordan. Obviously looking forward to working with you, and I know I speak on behalf of everybody on our board. We're just very grateful to both of you for your leadership, and thank you. Job well done.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks very much,
Thank you.
everybody. We'll move on, if it's all right with the Regents, to the regular business agenda. We've next have there are many materials in the book, but we next have an update from Chancellor Grasso.
Thank you, President Schlissel. Pending regional approval later in the meeting, we will have an interim provost starting on July 1st. Gabriella Scarlata will begin serving as interim provost at that time. She's been on campus for over 25 years, currently serving as associate dean in the College of Arts, Sciences, and Letters. Her priorities will be to help lead our transition back to campus this fall, advance our strategic plan, and continue to seek additional opportunities to enhance our student success. Working closely with Student Affairs in Ann Arbor and Martino's team, we are delighted to announce that we will be bringing forward a pilot partnership with Student Legal Services. Starting on September 1st, U of M Dearborn students will be able to seek support from Student Legal Services regarding issues including housing, family services such as name changes, consumer issues, traffic issues, basic estate planning, and immigration issues via phone and teleconference. Dr. Eunice Zaitensu, Associate Professor of Mathematics, as well as Director of our Center for Mathematics Education, was recently selected as a MASU Professor of the Year. You may recall that he presented last month to the Regents on a presentation that was entitled, "Can You Hear the Shape of a Drum?" We're very excited for him. He's established the Maize and Blue Math Circle, an after-school program that trains U of M Dearborn students to teach math games to middle and high school students that help improve not only their math skills, but their reasoning and critical thinking skills as well. And finally, Deborah Smith Pollard, Professor of English Literature and Humanities, received the Michigan Heritage Award. This award is the state's highest distinction to honor individuals who continue their family, community, or cultural traditions with excellence and devotion. Dr. Pollard received the award for her community leadership in African American gospel music, radio, concert promotion, and education. And I was honored to serve as co-chair with Dr. Pollard of our strategic planning effort. Thank you, President Schlissel.
Thank you, Chancellor Grasso. Next is the Flint campus report from Chancellor Dutta, along with the supplemental item.
Thank you, President Schlissel. I'm thrilled to present for the approval of the board, Sherry Schrader as the new Vice Chancellor for University Advancement at U of M Flint. Sherry Schrader has worked at Purdue University for 18 years and is now the Chief Development Officer in the Purdue Polytechnic Institute, which was formerly the College of Technology. She has also been the Director of Development for the School of Chemical Engineering, School of Nursing, School of Health Sciences at Purdue. During her tenure as Chief Development Officer in the Purdue Polytechnic Institute, she has led the college advancement team and raised more than $160 million. She has played a key role in 2 Purdue capital campaigns that raised $1.7 and $2.5 billion over the last 15 years. She has also worked with several corporate and private foundations, such as Lilly Endowment, John Deere Foundation, Boeing Foundation, the Caterpillar Foundation, and so forth. She has participated in Big Ten development conferences at the Big Ten Fundraiser Institute, and in addition to the Association of Fundraising Professionals Training. A Michigander, Sherry is a graduate of Central Michigan University with a bachelor's degree in journalism and public relations. So I respectfully request your vote of approval. Just a few other items of note. On June 9th, Paula Nass, the director of our Office of Economic Development, had the honor to testify before the U.S. House Research and Technology Subcommittee on Science, Space, and Technology on the topic of building regional innovation economies. Paula spoke about the importance of Economic Development Administration, EDA, their support of regional public universities as engines of economic growth. She also mentioned several U of M Flint programs that aim to build a strong foundation for a sustainable economy together with our community partners. We initiated a process for the University of Michigan to sign an agreement with Amazon Web Services Academy. The AWS Academy now allows us to offer a cloud computing curriculum and prepare students for professional certifications while they are completing their degrees. As a part of this agreement, and it's for free, 2 of our computer science faculty members are now being trained to become certified under AWS. I'm very pleased to announce that our College of Health Sciences, the public health programs, have received accreditation from the Council on Education for Public Health. And last but not least, U of M Flint has just been selected by Military Times as a Best for Vets college in 2021. We ranked 41 out of 366 institutions. We are very proud of the work that the Veterans Education Center does in the Division of Student Affairs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chancellor. The personnel reports are, I'm sorry, we're faculty governance. No, student government report. I'd like to call on CSG President Nithya Arun. Nithya?
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all today. There are 3 things that I would like to discuss: the Go Blue Guarantee, the Advancing Public Safety Task Force, and mental health services on campus. While I was excited that the Go Blue Guarantee is being expanded to the Flint and Dearborn campuses, I'm discouraged at the GPA requirement. While the Go Blue Guarantee for U of M Ann Arbor may result in an average GPA of above 3.5, it still contains no such official prerequisite. This new policy is laced with classist ideas of what hardworking, high-achieving students look like. A 3.5 GPA requirement for students who have to work so hard just to graduate from poorly funded high schools, particularly in Flint and Metro Detroit, is unacceptable. Moreover, let us be clear, while this is monumental, this expansion is due to years of organizing spearheaded by one university. Carla and I, along with the Flint and Dearborn student governments, are thankful for this expansion, but we also look forward to working with you to better this policy. I would also like to discuss the Advancing Public Safety Task Force. Recently, an article by the Chronicle of Higher Education was released questioning the efficacy of this task force. It noted flaws in gathering data, which made it especially difficult to develop new campus safety policies. Although it is well taken that this task force was developed to initiate a conversation surrounding anti-racism efforts on campus, this conversation should not stop. I propose that we institutionalize an anti-racism task force that has frequent deliverables developed by affected members of our campus community. I'm personally invested in this and will be reaching out to relevant stakeholders to initiate this conversation. Finally, an issue that has been raised by many students on campus relates to the university's mental health services provided by CAPS. While so many have been helped by CAPS counselors through the fall and winter semesters, which have the highest enrollment rates, students who need support during the spring and summer semesters have been left without assistance from CAPS simply because they are not enrolled during these terms. Students should not be excluded from certain mental health resources just because they are not actively taking classes during a given semester. I hope the university can take a look into this issue and ensure that none of our students are left without mental health support and adequate resources when they're needed, no matter the time of year. Again, thank you so much for your time and for your hard work. I really, really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Nithya. Personnel reports are in the materials. We move on. Actually, we can call for a vote on the consent agenda, including the supplemental personnel item from Flint. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The consent agenda carries. And we now move on to the regular agenda, finance and property. There's an alternative asset commitment, Vice President Smith, that you're going to explain a bit about.
Mr. President, before I present the reference item or item number 2 for approval, I would like to highlight an investment commitment in the informational items, item number 1 under finance property. The university has made a $10 million venture capital commitment to Screen Door Partners, LLC. This fund is a newly formed venture capital fund of funds that will make investment commitments to women and underrepresented fund managers, who in turn will focus on seed stage and early stage investments in companies with women and underrepresented founders. This commitment was made on the basis of limited delegated authority to the Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer, and is included as an information item only.
Thank you very much. Can we proceed to item number 2, an alternative asset commitment, Vice President Smith?
I request approval for an investment commitment of up to $25 million to Rubicon First Ascent LP. This fund invests in creative office and mixed-use real estate in the San Francisco Bay Area and the Pacific Northwest. The fund utilizes an extensive data platform to identify acquisition targets in up-and-coming submarkets, as well as to identify underutilized assets in prime locations at discounted values. I recommend approval of this commitment for the long-term portfolio.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item number 3, Vice President Runge, approval to enter into a joint operating agreement with Trinity Health.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, we're asking for approval to enter a joint operating agreement with Trinity Health to develop a joint venture to provide cardiovascular services in West Michigan. We would like to enter into a collaborative and exclusive partnership with Trinity to operate an integrated and comprehensive cardiovascular program in the western region of the state, similar to our existing cancer network program. Oversight of this program would be from a governing committee, which would be comprised of an equal number of appointed members, each from Michigan Medicine and Trinity Health. I, along with the interim executive vice president and chief financial officer, Brian Smith, am requesting approval to move forward with this joint operating agreement with Trinity Health to develop this cardiovascular program.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. We now move on to the conflicts agenda. Items 4 through 11 are conflict of interest items, each of which requires 6 votes for approval. The regents have carefully reviewed all of these items and will consider them together as a block in one vote, unless any regent requests individual consideration of or recusal from voting on a particular item. Does anyone have any questions about a particular item? Would any regents like to request recusal from voting on any items? I now call for a vote on items 4 through 11. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, show of hands, please. Opposed? Thank you. The conflicts agenda carries. The Michigan Health Corporation Business Plan, Vice President Runge.
Mr. President, I'm seeking approval of the Michigan Health Corporation FY22 Business Plan. The Michigan Health Corporation Board of Directors, myself as the Michigan Health Corporation sole member representative, and the University of Michigan Health System Board have unanimously approved the FY22 business plan and recommend it for approval.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. And I heard a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? Very good. The motion carries. Thank you very much. I'll now turn the meeting over to Vice President Churchill, who will moderate our public session, public comment session. Sally?
Yeah, thank you, President Schlissel. Our first speaker is Veronica Robinson. She will be brought in now.
Hello, my name is Veronica Robinson, and I'm a lecturer 4 in the nursing department at the University of Michigan, Flint. I have worked here for about 7 years, and I really enjoy working with the students, faculty, and the staff. Actually, I worked with U of M Flint nursing students for almost 10 years in my previous job. They assisted me in administering flu shots to the employees. From that point forward, I've witnessed their professionalism and dedication to the nursing profession. I want to address disparities in pay among the three campuses. The minimal starting salary at U of M Flint and Dearborn is $41,000 compared to the minimal starting salary of $51,000 at U of M Ann Arbor. This strategy of underpaying lecturers doesn't help our students. Although lecturers in Flint and Dearborn are paid less, our students usually graduate with more debt than Ann Arbor students. I graduated from the University of Michigan with a BSN in 1987. When pursuing a teaching position in 2013, U of M Flint was my first choice for working regarding reputation, prestige, and location, but not my first choice regarding pay. I could receive a more respectable salary working at a local community college than I can at the University of Michigan Flint. I know of valuable lecturers at the university who have been lost to community colleges as they pay more than U of M Flint does. Our lecturers are forced to make the type of choice as far as where they're going to work based on pay. Many lecturers work for several other universities and colleges just to make ends meet. Within the last year, over 41% of lecturers from the Flint campus have been laid off, leaving me to wonder if lecturers are even valued at the university. If lecturers are valued, the university would equalize starting pay beginning between the universities, which would retain valuable lecturers instead of contributing to the sometimes high turnover. Student retention is also hurt when lecturers are unpaid and undervalued. The problems I've highlighted thus far also intersect other issues. There is a current shortage of nursing faculty. The School of Nursing endeavors to find the much needed faculty prior to the beginning of each semester. It is becoming more challenging to locate clinical nursing faculty, which is my specialty. It is becoming, lecturers simply are not paid a respectable, dignified salary. I believe that the pay disparity further complicates our ability to obtain and retain highly qualified nursing faculty, who in turn educate the nursing students who will then provide excellent patient care expected of a University of Michigan graduate. I want to close by restating how important it is for you to support the entire University of Michigan. Today's decision to extend the Go Blue Guarantee to Flint and Dearborn is a good start. Supporting Leo's contract proposals is another essential next step. We've been extremely reasonable with management and have reached agreements in a number of areas. Raising starting pay to moral minimums, being able to obtain the title of teaching professor, making movements towards adequate childcare support, and being able to protect our members from the harmful effects of the racist felony disclosure, SPG, are all serious sticking points that still remain.
Thank you. Your time is up. If you were in the middle of a sentence, you can finish it, but we're over time and we have a number of speakers.
I was just going to finish by saying this one thing. I'm asking for your support in pushing the administration to settle negotiations by agreeing to a Leo contract that includes parity, dignity, and respect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your understanding. Okay. Next up is Kimberly Kutnick.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. All right, let me get to my speech here. Good afternoon. My 3 minutes today aren't about who is pro-Palestine or pro-Israel. I want to address how several organizations housed within the university community, both unaffiliated with religion and foreign affairs, have aligned themselves with Palestine. On May 10th, a handful of representatives of the CSG wrote a statement that appeared to voice the opinion of the entire CSG. I have chosen two key takeaways that had a jarring effect on me as a parent with a rising freshman. Quote, as a result, in solidarity, CSG will use its platform to uplift Palestinian voices throughout this administration, end quote, start quote. For the past 73 years, this violence has displaced, harmed, and killed Indigenous Palestinians, This is not a conflict, but emblematic of Israeli settler colonialism, ethnic cleansing, and apartheid. Based on the statement, I assume that the members of the CSG who wrote it aren't familiar with Hamas and the terrorism that has been cast upon Israel. Why is the CSG overstepping by taking sides? They did not protect all U-Michigan students, which goes against Section 6 of the CSG Constitution. And it is a fact that all Jewish CSG members do not share the same sentiments and were not consulted upon publishing the statement. Quoted from the Michigan Daily, LSA Junior Ben Givner, co-president of Wolverines for Israel, said, many students felt betrayed and hurt. Many felt that not only they were being misrepresented by CSG, but the statement radically and disingenuously skewed the conflict to portray Israel in the worst of terms. Givner wrote, Israelis are currently hiding in bomb shelters under fire from thousands of missiles shot by Hamas, intended to inflict maximum civilian casualties. Yet nowhere is Hamas even mentioned in the CSG statement. Secondly, I want to address the Graduate Employees Organization 3550. The GEO's mission statement reads, GEO is an activist, democratic, and volunteer-run organization where graduate employees come together to improve our wages and working conditions. It is a fact that GEO took position of Stand with Palestine during a recent march. Why is the GEO picking sides? Beliefs for or against Palestine have nothing to do with wages and working conditions. My son chose a university that aligned with his leadership and academic goals, Ross, with a significant Jewish population. My ask to the Board of Regents isn't to silence the CSG, GEO, or any UMich organizations. It is to protect all students, including mine. I encourage groups like the CSG and GEO to take no sides. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, our next speaker is Randy Wisler.
Hi. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my husband. My husband is an alumni of Michigan, and my son had choices when to go to college, where he was going to go to college, and he chose Michigan, and we supported it. I'm speaking here as a concerned parent. I'm actually afraid to send him to Michigan. I don't like what I'm seeing on the uptick of both Israeli and anti-Semitic events that are taking place on campus and the surrounding areas. And I'm especially disappointed that the administration has not specifically condemned anti-Semitism, but has lumped it in with other issues. I do encourage the administration to see the message from Florida State University President John Thresher. He released a statement that specifically addressed anti-Semitism. Again, I am proud that my son is going to Michigan, but I am having some buyer's remorse. We gave up a full scholarship and Florida prepaid at UF for my son to attend Michigan. And this is a big deal for us as we're investing in my son's education in Michigan. Like I said, I'm not sure if this is the right decision for our family, but it's done. It's July and he has no other choices right now as to where to go to school. Again, just like other speakers have said, why are other school-sponsored organizations sending out letters and messages that are one-sided? I am worried about my son's safety. I am worried that he's going to get on campus and just because of his religion, he is going to face hate. And that worries me. We know what words lead to. Words lead to violence. And once again, I am worried about my son's safety. We're not going to fix Middle East politics, and I know that. What I'm worried about, once again, is what's going to happen when these words actually turn into real violence. I'm also worried that my son will be distracted by all this noise and lose focus on his academics. I don't want him to living with fear and anxiety. I don't want him to fear that the adults in the room are not going to have his back. This, again, makes me afraid. I don't know why Jewish kids who have no interest or no part of foreign affairs are being singled out just because of their religion. I want the school to condone the hate speech, and I want the school to let some of these supporters know that just because a child is Jewish doesn't mean that they support one opinion or another opinion.
Your time is up. Are you wrapping up? Because it is time.
I'm fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I did accidentally skip a speaker, and I apologize. I'm going back to speaker number 3, which is Stephanie Stoloff. Sorry, Stephanie. Is she on?
I've already asked her to unmute.
Oh, sorry. I already did my speech. No, I was just saying, Kim and Randy, that was so powerful, and I couldn't agree with you more. My name is Stephanie Stoloff, and I've been a Michigan parent since 2015. And I'm here today because I'm outraged and saddened by the anti-Israel messages, especially the ones written on the Rock and the hate crime against Hillel earlier this month. I'd like to thank Regent Acker for his tweet. In case you missed it, he wrote, "I'm disgusted by the hateful and anti-Semitic graffiti found on the rocket you missed this morning. This vulgar messaging displacing a Pride Month painting is disgraceful. Make no mistake, our campus is not and cannot be a haven for such hatred." Well, I couldn't agree more. With this kind of hate, I fear for the safety of our Jewish students and their non-Jewish friends. My daughter, Sammy, is also a speaker today. Sorry. And you'll hear how she and her photography business have been targeted after she painted over the anti-Israeli hate speech on the Rock. I am scared and I fear for her safety. Sorry, I didn't think I'd get so emotional, but of course, there is much debate over whether or not the writing F Israel on the Rock is anti-Semitic, because the university has not defined what anti-Semitism is. For me, when I see F Israel, I do take it personally because I'm Jewish. I identify Israel as my Jewish homeland. And with 20% of your student body being Jewish, many feel the way I do. As I embark on my 7th year as a Michigan parent, I can tell you firsthand that the climate on campus has changed. I've witnessed BDS debates. Sorry, this is very emotional. Letters of recommendation to study in Israel refusals, mandatory lectures with anti-Semitic guest speakers, and anti-Israel emails sent out to our students. Yes, the climate has changed, and anti-Semitism will continue to get worse if we keep enabling hate speech and allow it to spread. If we are to eliminate anti-Semitism on campus and make campus much safer, here are my suggestions. First, I'd like the Board of Regents to ask the university to partner with the city of Ann Arbor to install video surveillance on Hill Street from State Street to Washtenaw. There is a light at the corner of Washtenaw and Hill. A traffic camera would be easy to install. In addition, I would like a video camera installed on the Rock with a live feed for everyone on the internet to watch. Other schools such as Northwestern has a camera on the Rock. This will hopefully serve as a deterrent for hate speech and hate crimes. And if it doesn't, then at least we will know who we are dealing with. 2, the second thing, I would like the Board of Regents to define anti-Semitism by adopting the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition, which has been accepted by 36 countries, including the United States. And I would like the Board of Regents to encourage the University of Michigan to also adopt this definition. In order to eliminate anti-Semitism, we need to define it. My children did not go to the University of Michigan to feel bullied or harassed. They do not want to live in an atmosphere of fear or discord. My children went to the University of Michigan to get a great education, to make lifelong friends, to enjoy the Big Ten athletics, and to get a great job at the end. Thank you, Board of Regents and President Schlissel for your service to our university and for giving me the opportunity to express my concerns and requests. Go Blue.
Thank you. Next up is John Clubb.
My name is John Mark Clubb. I'm grateful to address you on this painful subject of the abuse committed by Dr. Robert Anderson, which I personally experienced. Men are told that boys don't cry, to dismiss their pain and fall in line. As we progress through life, we're told we aren't sensitive or caring enough. We're emasculated if we appear to be too aggressive. Our feelings that we swallowed for a lifetime can come boiling out in very inappropriate ways. I truly admire the way that women readily come forward to support another woman in similar cases of abuse. Only recently have I been able to experience the power of another man who says to me, I hear your pain and I'm sorry. I'm here today for those students who have not been able to find their voice, students who are trapped in shame and emotionally paralyzed. The University of Michigan has given its students and those violated by Dr. Anderson a bounced check. The university has lauded support for a predator who hid in plain sight. The broken legal system blamed these students for being raped and sexually assaulted, blamed them for not fighting harder, for being weak, shamed those students into silence and self-medication. You've punished the abused for speaking their truths and continue to dehumanize the students in their daily life. Each day that you refuse to hold your employees accountable for damage caused while representing the University of Michigan as teachers, coaches, and all other staff members. You loudly award pedophiles with the unalienable right of freedom. Students continue to sit in fear and judgment from their classmates, teammates, family, and community. No safe harbor to be helped. Many are trapped in isolation, relationships now broken as they try to repair themselves. No tools available for them to find hope, and many lose their will through despair and suicide. The horror of my pain is not unique. Dr. Anderson, like Jerry Sandusky at Pennsylvania State University, was a trusted employee of the University of Michigan. Together, they harmed, assaulted, and violated everyone entrusted to their care. I'm a U.S. Marine. It's always been my belief that I earned the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor that defines a Marine, to protect those who couldn't protect themselves and speak for those who were unable to find their voices. I'm here for those who are no longer with us because their shame won. That's my goal, that no one ever again sees no hope in fighting for who they were always meant to be, before our innocence and light were taken from us by those who wanted to give us their shame. Their shame doesn't belong to us anymore. We have an obligation to our best selves and best lives to shake that shame and see life for what it is, life, joy, and laughter. Abuse does not have to be a life sentence, but so many men do not know that and will never understand it because we've been told too many times to suffer in silence. If this university's board believes in its creed, it's well past the time to finally do the right thing for all victims of a monster, not just a certain sex. Give us our humanity, our dignity back, and help give us back the shame to that man who so richly deserves it. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Clubb.
Sally, I just wanted to thank Mr. Chubb for his story, and thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you, Regent Illich.
And if I may, real quickly, I'd just like to add, thank you for your bravery in coming forward.
Our next speaker is Jolene Robbins.
Hello, I'm Jolene Robbins, and I'm a 1993 alum who has loved the University of Michigan since I stepped on this campus in the fall of 1989. I am now the mother of a 2020 Ross grad and a current rising sophomore. I also moderate the 2024 Parent Facebook group, where I have served as a cheerleader for the university for the last 15 months. I can't tell you how proud I was last summer as Michigan planned for a public health informed fall semester, which included scrambling and creatively moving things around so that classes would even be held in ballrooms in the union so that social distancing could be achieved while our students still received a Michigan quality education. As I stated earlier, today I'm representing the parents of the class of 2024 and what is happening to our rising second-year students after their 95% online first year. I want to make sure that President Schlissel and the Regents understand and are aware of what that means to a typical first or second-year student. First, for these underclassmen, almost 50% of their classes still remain 100% online. But more importantly, and this is the part I want to make clear, of the classes that are listed as hybrid or in person, they're actually still meeting 75% of the time online, as only the once a week, 1 hour discussion sections are actually in person. So even classes listed as hybrid or in person, and therefore counting in the 50% of classes that are being offered in person, are only meeting 1 hour a week. Classes such as foreign language, which you think would be 100% in person because of the small class sizes and the need to learn a foreign language in person, are only meeting 2 hours per week or at 50%. What does this translate to? The typical first or second year students are reporting about 3 out of their 15 or 16 credit hours are still in person less than 20%. Or to say in another way, over 80% of their schedules are still online. I would also like to express my solidarity with the Jewish students on campus who deserve to be supported by the administration when defamation happens near campus, just as I agreed with the administration when they supported Black and Brown students who were defamed near campus as students built a snowman at an off-campus apartment. Also, due to the recent statistics of myocarditis, I would like to ask the university to not mandate vaccines and housing, even as I worry about my own vaccinated son. These are decisions that should be made by our adult students in conjunction with their doctors. My final challenge to you: there were plans last summer for creative uses of our large and beautiful campus. Let's do what we say we're going to do and truly offer students at least 50% of their class time safely in person. Let's fulfill what the university told the students before they registered in March. Thank you very much for your time, and please consider what needs to be done for our students to receive the quality of education we all expect at the University of Michigan.
Thank you, Jolene. Now we have Samantha Stoloff.
Hi. Thank you for letting me speak today. My name is Sammy Stoloff, and I'm a graduate of the University of Michigan, an incoming master's student, and an active member of the Jewish community on campus. For the past 6 years, I have watched anti-Semitism thrive on campus, coming up in BDS resolutions, CSG endorsements, and most recently, incidents involving the Rock on Washtenaw Hill. I've been waiting every day for a statement in defense of the Jewish students on your campus who are facing anti-Semitism. I waited every day only to be disappointed by the administration. In your most recent statement to the university, President Schlissel has addressed the recent anti-Semitic rhetoric on campus by condemning and listing every single form of racism instead. In addition, stating that the CSG does not speak for the university does nothing to make up for the misinformation that was sent out to thousands of individuals with no prior education or previous opinions on the matter. I feel unsafe, and the members of my community feel unsafe as well. Last month, the war over painting the Rock began. At the end of May, students painted it with phrases like Israel's a terrorist state and words like apartheid and genocide appeared. Dozens of students expressed feeling unsafe on a campus that did nothing to stop the display of hate speech. After the lack of response to the CSG statement, I knew that if I wanted to see action, it would have to come from me and my friends. We first painted the Rock with the saying, "Stop Jewish hate" and "Israel wants peace." Our message was replaced with "Fuck Israel" the very next day. We went again to paint the Rock, and this time painted it with Michigan-themed drawings and sayings. At least 20 people driving by and walking by stopped to ask why we were covering the anti-Israel speech, and if we supported Israel, if we supported genocide, or if we supported apartheid, killing Palestinian children, ethnic cleansing, and any other false and accusatory statements you could think of. We made up cover stories to hide the fact that we were Jewish. We feared that because we were Jewish, we would be attacked for defending Israel's right to exist. Every day, Jews get blamed for Israel's right to exist. To say that anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism is false, and because Zionism is literally defined as an international movement for the establishment of a Jewish national or religious community, anti-Zionism is equal to anti-Semitism. June is Pride Month, acknowledging the LGBTQ+ community and their accomplishments in the fight for equal rights. With this in mind, I decided to celebrate them by painting the Rock with the colors of the rainbow. After posting about covering anti-Israel speech with this celebration, I received death threats, was accused of pinkwashing, genocide, and racism. Messages like, I hope Hamas nukes Tel Aviv and I hope you're sentenced to death, fuck you and fuck Zionists, and every swear word in the dictionary was used to try and slander me. And I understood the risk when I posted this on social media. But what crossed the line were the countless one-star reviews on my photography business's Google page. One reviewer is a recent graduate and GSI of the University of Michigan School of Information who received countless rewards, praises, and scholarships from Michigan. She called for students who consider hiring me to find another photographer who didn't use LGBTQ+ liberation as an excuse to silence Palestinian voices. I truly believe if this were any other issue, there would be more action by the administration. I understand the political nature of the conflict, but what is going on campus has gone too far.
Thank you. We are out of time now.
I have one sentence left, literally one sentence.
Okay.
I am asking that the University of Michigan adopt the IHRA working definition of anti-Semitism on campus, a definition that has been adopted by 29 countries, including the United States. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric Marshall.
Hello, I'm Eric Marshall. I'm a lecturer 2 on the Dearborn campus, where I've taught for 9 years, and I'm the Dearborn campus chair for Leo. I want to first recognize the work of the Regents to secure more funding to the Dearborn and Flint campuses in this budget. We see budgets as moral documents that speak volumes about the priorities of an institution. It is essential for this administration to commit to the long-term sustainability of Dearborn and Flint through central funding. In particular, we hope to see improvement in the salary offerings from the administration at the bargaining table, particularly for our lecturers in Dearborn and Flint, who still have starting salaries $10,000 less than that of Ann Arbor lecturers. We're losing quality lecturers to community colleges because U of M, one of the wealthiest public institutions, refuses to provide a livable wage for these qualified and experienced professionals. In addition to losing lecturers to other institutions, we're seeing historic layoff rates in Dearborn and Flint. Last year, 44% of all Flint lecturers and 38% of Dearborn lecturers lost work. Entire programs were shut down, including applied music in Dearborn. Sadly, we've recently learned that many of these layoffs will continue next year. During the same time, we've seen class sizes increase and the number of administrators rise 5% in Flint and 24% in Dearborn. Hiring more administrators while laying off core teaching faculty and increasing class sizes for those who remain is a choice, and it's a bad one at that. We need to make better choices. I'd like to share a story from a Dearborn lecturer, Kaneen Comstock of Natural Sciences, which I feel captures the impact of these decisions on faculty. Kaneen says, quote, I have received layoff notices nearly every semester for years, just before the deadline specified in our Leo contract. I believe the department sends out these layoff notices prophylactically, so they're not obligated to make decisions about teaching responsibilities in advance. Most of the time I'm offered courses to teach just before the course begins. This could be a week before or even a day before. It's impossible to adequately prepare for teaching courses in days or hours. This definitely impacts the student's learning experience. The decision to offer classes or not at the last minute is stressful to the students when they're planning their semester. They would prefer to know that a course will be offered, who will be teaching, and who will be teaching the class. Many students have told me they have difficulty taking the courses that they need to graduate in a timely manner because oftentimes courses are not offered or changes are made at the last minute, unquote. Kaneen's story is representative of far too many lecturers in Dearborn and Flint. The instability caused by low salaries and mass layoffs has produced a climate that hurts both faculty and students. While we appreciate that you have taken a step toward equitable funding of Dearborn and Flint today, we hope you provide adequate funding to close the salary gap between the campuses and make a permanent change to the budgeting model to better support faculty and students in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Michelle Misaga.
Hi, my name is Michelle Masagia, and I speak today in 2 capacities. I'm a U of M alum, graduated Ann Arbor honors student in 1989, and my daughter is planning on attending U of M in the fall in Ann Arbor. My topic this afternoon is on the importance of U of M professors teaching in person and not online. I'm a rabbi in Los Angeles, a religious leader, and I know how difficult it is to lead, especially during this time of a pandemic. Yet the core definition of rabbi is teacher. And to be an exceptional teacher is to be someone who not only knows their material, but is inspiring with their pedagogy through their personal connections with students. And these connections cannot be made online, especially in a short amount of time over one semester. They cannot be made when students turn off their cameras, are quiet for the most part, and have minimal interaction with other students and the professors. And they cannot be made when professors are allowed to pre-record their sessions and simply post them. This is not dynamic, interactive, life-changing education. This is simply downloading information. Anyone can take online classes from Yale to Stanford. The web is filled with information. Information is not education. U of M has too good of a reputation, and I urge you not to allow any professor or TA to teach online. And I especially urge you not to allow any professor to pre-record their lectures and post them for students to watch. I know that this happened this year, as was spoken by another parent, in both level entry courses and upper level courses. And this is unacceptable going forward. In the future, every class needs to be offered in person, no matter the size of the class, even breakout classes. Every professor should be required to be vaccinated, as you are requiring students who live in dorms to be vaccinated, or to wear a mask if he or she refuses to get vaccinated. In addition, those who choose not to get vaccinated, be it students or teachers, need to have weekly PCR tests and show the University of Michigan their results in order to walk into any university building. Other universities are making this happen. The entire state of Israel is doing this. And just because students and faculty live off campus doesn't mean that U of M can't require every student and faculty member to either get vaccinated and download proof of this on a weekly basis, and to continually undergo PCR tests if that need be. I urge University of Michigan to ensure in-person teaching supported by mandatory COVID vaccinations or weekly testing for everyone. Thank you so much.
I have a quick question. Can you give an example? You mentioned the pre-recorded classes, upper level or lower, but do you have any specific examples of what classes?
For example, I know of a student who's a third-year student, and he had several of his classes that were pre-recorded and posted, but I don't have that exact information about which ones. I'm happy to send that to you, Regent Ilrich, if you'd like.
Thank you. My email address is on our website, so I would
Yes, I
appreciate
know.
that. Thank you.
Perfect. Sure.
Thank you. Annie Minton.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Annie Minton, and I am the speaker of the University of Michigan's Central Student Government Assembly. So I'm here today on behalf of a coalition of students from across the University of Michigan's 3 campuses that came together to demand increased funding into the Flint and Dearborn campuses. And it was really exciting to see all of your backgrounds today as they kind of flashed up one by one to see that the Go Blue guarantee would be instituted on all 3 campuses. However, with that being said, it was a bit disappointing to hear that there would be a 3.5 GPA requirement. There is no GPA requirement in Ann Arbor. And as President Schlissel said, many students in Ann Arbor do have a GPA that received the Go Blue guarantee that is above a 3.5. However, it's still called the Go Blue guarantee because it is guaranteed that you will receive funding if you meet certain requirements that do not include a GPA. So instituting this Go Blue guarantee at the Flint and Dearborn campuses with this GPA requirement, it's not a guarantee anymore. So essentially the call for the Go Blue guarantee for the Flint and Dearborn campuses was a call for increased equity. But by instituting this GPA requirement, you've answered a call for equity with a response that is importing racial and class inequalities into our system. Research has found that GPA is a weaker predictor of college performance for Black and Hispanic students. When we look at the Black enrollment of our three campuses at the University of Michigan, we find that the Ann Arbor campus has a very disheartening 4% Black student enrollment, followed by the Dearborn campus that has a 9% Black student enrollment, followed by Flint, which has a 13% student enrollment, which sounds high when compared to Ann Arbor, but is still less than the state of Michigan average for the Black population, which is 14%. So essentially, we called for the expansion of the Go Blue Guarantee to serve Black and Brown communities and students, but we're seeing that the GPA requirement isn't an effective measure for Black and Brown students that we're now going to be enforcing in order to give greater money to Black and Brown students. As other individuals have also expressed, the Go Blue Guarantee and expansion is very welcomed, but it also does not include pay parity. And while we're now going to be seeing student legal services at Dearborn, there's still so much more that can be done for student services at Dearborn and Flint. So I think we're all very happy that this is a step in the right direction. However, in order to truly see tri-campus equity, I think we will be asking to do away with this GPA requirement, which only exists at the Dearborn and Flint campuses and essentially says that admittance to the University of Michigan at Flint and Dearborn is not enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Jason?
Yep, can you guys hear me?
That's correct, yes, we can.
Awesome, I'll begin. My name is Matthew Jason. I'm a rising senior at the Ross School of Business with an additional educational focus in film and television. I am joining you today to speak about an issue very important to me, CSG's recent press release on the Israel-Palestine conflict posted on Instagram on May 10th. The formal statement posted on social media took a stance against Israel and divided our campus community, as you've heard today. Furthermore, our student government's post was a springboard for additional statements as well as acts of hatred and vandalism at UMich. As a twice elected CSG member, I can attest that CSG is supposed to reflect the interests of the entire student body. I will quickly share the first sentence of the mission statement, which is on the website. The Central Student Government, CSG, of the University of Michigan are comprised of students of different backgrounds who have come together to serve our fellow students and the entire University of Michigan community. Now, as bright and capable as many of our students are, at this point, CSG is in no position to determine what exemplifies peace in the Middle East. Instead, in this situation, it should have been CSG's goal to provide a safe space for an open dialogue for students to express their concerns, listen to others' point of view without fear of retribution, and celebrate each other's heritages. It should be CSG's position to bring students together and not drive them apart. Not only did our CSG members divide campus, they've been quoted saying online, quote, I have to disagree with the fact that we as CSG are responsible for representing the entire student body. Why do I share this with you? You are the regents and the administration, not the student government. You didn't make any of these statements. My mother taught me a long time ago, follow the money. As a former member of the CSG Finance Committee, I know that CSG receives about approximately $10 from each student's tuition. I'm asking you to allow students to opt out of their $10 to CSG this year. Simply, if it is the current consensus of CSG to not represent the entire student body should not be required to fund them. While serving on CSG, I heard it all. What is CSG? UMich has a student government? What does CSG do? Each time I'd answer the same way. CSG at its core is a group of students who want to make campus life better, handing out free coffee on the diag, securing free Wall Street Journal and New York Times, things like that. But unfortunately, our current CSG administration does not share this belief with me, nor follow their own mission statement. So I hope you will take it under consideration and authorize students to opt out of funding CSG on their fall tuition bill until CSG represents the entire student body as they have agreed to on their mission statement. Now, I recognize you don't normally respond to public comments, as it's important to be prepared when speaking on very delicate issues. But as many speakers have spoken on the same issue today, I feel like some response would be appropriate. Thank you so much for your time, and forever go blue.
Thank you. Kimberly Simmons? Kimberly?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good
Good afternoon. I am Kimberly Simmons, founding president and executive director of the Detroit River Project. I'm a published author, historical researcher, alumni member of the U.S. State Department's International Speaker Program, and a national partner with the U.S. National Park Service's Network to Freedom program. The Detroit River Project was founded as a nonprofit organization in 2010 and has an ambitious and crucial mission to designate the Detroit River as a United Nations UNESCO World Heritage Site, based on its critical role in aiding freedom seekers away from bondage, excuse me, in the mid-19th century. Already an American Heritage River, Canadian Heritage River, and an international wildlife refuge, the UNESCO designation for the Detroit River would solidify its potential to flourish as a site of cultural heritage tourism. The Detroit River Project believes that uplifting the narratives of African American and African Canadian freedom seekers offers the Detroit River region ample opportunities for economic, educational, and cultural growth. We have been involved since mid-2020 in a continuing community partnership with the MECC, Michigan Engaging Communities Through the Classroom initiative of the Taubman School of Architecture and Urban Planning, as well as the Detroit River Story Lab initiative of Poverty Solutions, the university-wide presidential initiative. At present, DRP is making exciting progress. Through our work with Governor General Awarding Educator Ms. Chantel Browning Morgan and the University of Michigan Cedar Center, we are piloting the Detroit River Project International Freedom Curriculum through the university's Wolverine Pathways program this July. This barrier-breaking transnational curriculum is historic, driven by U.S. congressional resolutions H.R. 434 and Senate Resolution 293. It is the first of its kind to educate students on both sides of any international border in the world. This curriculum allows students to explore the narratives of freedom seekers who traveled the two countries within the Detroit River borderland via the Underground Railroad, and offers opportunities to draw connections between anti-slavery efforts of the 19th century and modes of anti-racist action today. I am speaking today for the opportunity to advocate for a committed partnership between the University of Michigan and the Detroit River Project to continue this huge economic development project. I quote two pillars of the Poverty Solutions Initiative's arc of change that guide the work: a commitment to an anti-racist approach to research and policy solutions aimed at dismantling systemic and institutional racism; mutually respectful, dynamic, solution-focused partnerships with community organizations, government entities, practitioners, and policymakers at every level. And may I add, in the Michigan's original hometown of Detroit, the huge opportunity to establish meaningful, trusting, and equal partnerships with community orgs, nonprofits, and small businesses in an era when large universities and corporations are considered to be extractors rather than true partners in our underserved and low-income communities. I again advocate further development of a meaningful partnership between UMichigan and the DRP that offers the Detroit International region another strong anchor toward its elevation to a significant place in world history. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Daly Held.
Hello. Hello, my name is Dale Held. I'm a fourth-year student at U of M Dearborn studying psychology and pre-medicine, and I'm a member of the One University campaign. I want to start by saying that I appreciate the work of the Regents to get more funding to the Dearborn and Flint campuses in this budget. The community celebrated this morning when the news broke out about the extension of the Go Blue guarantee, but we are devastated about the classist and racist 3.5 GPA threshold, which is not present for the Ann Arbor Go Blue guarantee. Countless students have to work so hard just to graduate from poorly funded high schools, particularly in Flint and Metro Detroit. If you claim to support these deserving students, this requirement must go. One University has been fighting for 3 long years with students, faculty, and staff. I want to recognize the hard work and dedication of organizers, but also Regent allies in this fight for equity. This is an important step, but it is essential for this administration to commit to all students and the long-term sustainability of Dearborn and Flint through central funding. I'm from Ann Arbor, but I made the choice to transfer to UM Dearborn last fall because of the smaller campus size. As a student with physical disabilities, it seemed like the better choice when compared with Ann Arbor's sprawling campus. But I often wondered if I made the right choice because my tuition for this past school year at Dearborn was not covered even with my Pell Grant and scholarships. I will now personally qualify for the Go Blue Guarantee, but many of my classmates who did not have the same resources as me will not. This is why the administration needs to fully commit to the initiatives proposed by One University. A Go Blue Guarantee for all students with family incomes of $65,000 or less, regardless of GPA. The administration must also adopt important support services like DEI programming, permanent medical and legal services, and instructional support. We need to continue funding these campuses so students can thrive. This is about equity. As we've seen from the Leo contract demands and the Fund Our Future actions on all 3 campuses yesterday, the One University movement and the demand for equity is growing. Recently, the All Campus Labor Council held a series of meetings with the U of M community, which further showed that students, workers, and the community value issues of equity across all campuses. I urge the administration to include the stakeholders in your future budgeting decisions. While today is a day for celebration, the work to get the support needed to the Dearborn and Flint campuses and communities is not over. One University stands with Leo in their commitment to pay parity across the campuses and stands with the student governments and their call for continued investment in Dearborn and Flint. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is M. Levy.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, great. So I also wanted to thank all of you for finally putting into the work to bring the Go Blue Guarantee to both campuses besides Ann Arbor. As someone who grew up about 20 miles from Flint and the Flint campus, and who got in on the Go Blue Guarantee along with one of my high school classmates to U of M Ann Arbor, I am just super happy that it's extended to 2 extensions that have given so much back to my community. The teachers that got me here went to U of M Flint. The people that have supported me from the very beginning in my lifetime went there. And they're also the people that have been the most thoughtful people that I've known. So I'm just very happy about that. However, I also take issue with the GPA requirement as someone who very much struggled on my way here. I came from a school where I never had to study for tests because there wasn't really much rigor in any of my classes. And it was uncommon for anyone, like more than 1 or 2 people in my in a graduating class at my school, to make it to U of M. It's considered a rich kid's school where I'm at. And I graduated with a 2.5 GPA, and most of that is because of my first 2 years here. I was put on academic probation my 2nd semester, and when that happened, the way I found out was an auto-delivered, very bluntly worded email that in essence said that I was 1 semester away from having to withdraw. And that's not something that you want to hear when you're getting ready to prepare for summer plans, getting ready to jump into another semester, and having to scramble to just get everything together and figure out where all these resources are that no one's told you about. Just before all of those, before the rush of midterms and everything knocks you down a second time. And I know students from the county where I live. I know people that are on the Go Blue Guarantee. And of those, I maybe only know 1 or 2 that haven't either been on academic probation at one point or considered dropping out. And that's just ridiculous. And if you're going to keep that GPA requirement, you need to consider the fact that you will probably need to put more into a lot of other resources on campus: disability services, mental health services, resources for Black, Brown, undocumented students, because all of those identities can contribute to academic struggle when you're in an environment like U of M that historically has been underprepared to support those students. So in summary, I know you guys don't take a sweeping decision like this lightly. I know it takes a lot out of the budget, and there's a lot of moving parts that need to be moved around.
Thank
And
you.
despite my criticisms, I want to thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We are at time.
Okay.
And our last, thank you very much, and good luck in school. Okay, our last speaker is Dan Smith.
Thank you, Vice President. My name is Dan Smith, and I'm a Michigan alum. I'm speaking today to urge the Board of Regents and President Schlissel to adopt the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism, or as I'll refer to it today, the IRA definition. As a former board member of the World Union of Jewish Students, I've seen firsthand how the IRA definition is critical for combating anti-Semitism on campuses worldwide. To properly address a problem, you must first be able to identify it. That has become particularly evident by the events of the past couple weeks in Ann Arbor. When the Rock on Washtenaw and the Hillel were both defiled with grotesque graffiti, the university posted on social media to denounce, quotes, all vulgar and hateful messages. It did not label these messages as anti-Semitic. And how could it? It has no rubric to identify anti-Semitism, to distinguish between what is and what is not hateful to Jews. On the other hand, Regent Acker, I thank you for being precise with your language when you labeled the graffiti as anti-Semitic. President Schlissel, you also released a statement which failed to label the incidents on campus as anti-Semitic. But that was far from the statement's only problem. In it, you condemned, quote, anti-Black or anti-Asian racism, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, anti-Palestinian bias, or any other form of bigotry. I'll be clear with how that read to me. When the Jewish community on campus was targeted with harassment at a time when Jews were being beaten in the streets across our country, your response was that all lives matter. Now, of course, all these forms of bigotry must be condemned with equal force, but why can't anti-Semitism be condemned on its own? Worse, your statement's inclusion of anti-Palestinian bias and exclusion of anti-Israel bias politicized what should have been an unequivocal condemnation of hate. This botched condemnation of anti-Semitism reiterates the need for the IRA definition to be adopted and utilized by the university when evaluating bias incidents. The IRA definition includes 11 examples that clarify what constitutes anti-Semitism. These examples are crucial because anti-Semitism is complex. It comes in many forms from all across the ideological spectrum. University officials cannot be expected to identify it, let alone properly respond to it, without training and without a common definition to refer to. The IRA definition is the only mainstream definition of anti-Semitism, adopted by 36 countries, including Muslim-majority Albania, and by organizations in Morocco and Bahrain. It has been endorsed by the UN, by the Obama administration, and now reaffirmed by the Biden administration. It has been adopted by dozens of universities, including 5 other Big Ten schools. So why not the University of Michigan? We cannot allow Ann Arbor to become a shelter for hate speech. In order to fight it, we must define it. I would welcome continuing this conversation with you, President Schlissel, and with the Board of Regents so that we can get the IRA definition adopted at University of Michigan. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank our speakers for their thoughts, experiences, and stories, and we will see you all in July.
Thank you very much, everybody. The meeting's adjourned. Good afternoon.